Good morning, grade 11 students. Welcome to our today's lesson. So, in today's lesson, we are going to study the clauses of reason and concession. In this lesson, we are going to accomplish three main objectives. First, you will infer the purpose of conjunctions used in given situations through the activity A and B on your student book page 60. Second, you will practice using these conjunctions through a multiple choice exercise through the activity C, page 60. And finally, you will try to express reason and concession in your own words to respond to a given question. You are going to compose an answer. Are you ready for today's lesson? Today we'll be studying the clauses of concessions and reasons. So, what is a clause of reason? A clause of reason explains why someone does something or why something happens. Now let's read the example. Many people travel because they are eager to discover new places. So the clause of reason here is because they are eager to discover new places. Now let's read another example. Since there is internet, we can do everything from home. Now let's move on to the second question. What is a clause of concession? A clause of concession expresses an idea that suggests the opposite of the main part of the sentence. We usually use the words despite, although, even though, etc. Now look at the example. Although it was rainy, we put on our jackets and went for a walk. John's company is doing extremely well despite the crisis. Now let's try to find an answer to the following question using either clauses of reason or concessions. Why does soil erosion decrease in some areas? The next question, why do some areas get damaged after the flood? Now let's check your answers and go ahead with the lesson. Alright, I hope you watched the video and it was clear to you. Now let's try to answer the questions that were asked in the video. So, why do some areas get damaged after the flood, as you can see in this picture? And the second question, why does soil erosion, this is soil erosion, decrease or you can say get less in some areas? I hope you have thought of an appropriate answer. So we are going to find the reason or the cause because the question is why. Now we can check our answers through the activity A on your student book. Read the sentences in the boxes and answer the question that follows. Soil erosion was slowed down greatly because thousands of trees were planted and maintained in the region. Flood damage in the area is often due to the construction projects that have blocked drainage channels. So what do the phrases in bold express? And as we previously mentioned, they are used to express why something happens. Let's recapitulate and read the rule in the gray box. Use because, as, since, because of, and due to express the reason or the cause, why something happens. So if you use because, as, or since, they have to be followed by a subject and a verb. However, when using because of, which is different from because, and due to, they should be followed by a noun and a verb in the ing form. Let's look into some examples. I couldn't go on a picnic because of, or you can replace it with due to, the heavy rain. So, as you can see, because of is followed by the heavy rain, which is a noun phrase. Next example, I couldn't go on a picnic because the rain was heavy. So this is different from because of. Because needs a subject and a verb. So the rain is the subject, was is the verb. All right, now let's read the sentence in the box and answer the question that follows. Despite repeated attempts to protect the world's mangrove forests, over half of them have been destroyed in recent times. What does the phrase in bold express? So this is the phrase, despite repeated attempts to express the world's mangrove forest. So what do you think? It expresses an idea which is in contrast with the rest of the sentence, which is opposite. And we call this concession. Now let's read the tip here. Use although, even though, in spite of, and despite to express an idea which is in contrast with the idea expressed in the main clause. Please bear in mind this rule. If you use although, even though in the sentence, they should be followed by a subject and a verb. However, if we use despite or in spite of, they should be followed either by a noun or by a verb in the ing form. Let's look into some examples. Although, or you can say even though, they have the same meaning. So, although he was hungry, as you can see here, he is a subject, was is a verb. So, although he was hungry, he didn't take the last piece of cake. Next example. He didn't take the last piece of cake despite or in spite of being hungry. And as you can see here, we have the verb to be in the ing form. And also you can replace this by a noun. We can say in spite of hunger. All right, now let's move on to the second objective and practice using the appropriate conjunctions. Let's start with the first one. Although and in spite of have the same meaning, but they have different forms. Remember that although should be followed by a subject and a verb, while in spite of should be followed by a noun or ing form. Now let's check the sentence. Most people know that we need to protect the environment. So most people is the subject, know is the verb. So the answer is very good, although. Let's move on to the next one. Since and despite have two different meanings. So since refers to the reason, while despite refers to the concession, and both of them have different forms. With since, you should use subject plus verb, while with despite, as we said, with a noun or a verb in the ing. The problem is pretty big. So the problem is, here is the verb. So the answer is since. Very good. So let's read the sentence. Since the problem is pretty big, many people think that there is nothing they can do to help. The Green World Organization is an environmental organization which helps inform people all over the world of how they can take action to help the environment. The members of the organization say that many people don't take action because of or because they don't know how. So they is a subject, don't know is a verb, and the answer, very good, is because. So let's move on to the next one. Lately, the GWO has become even more popular as or because of the use of social media. So the use of social media is a noun phrase. There is no verb here. So the answer is because of. Very good, because the word as should be followed by a subject and a verb. So let's read the sentence. Lately, the GWO has become even more popular because of the use of social media, which helps advertise our causes and events even more, says Cindy Hayworth, a member of GWO. Let's check this now. In spite of and even though have the same meaning, but of course they have different forms. We have not having, it's an ing form, so the answer is very good. In spite of not having much spare time, many internet users jump at the chance to learn about ways to help the environment. Finally, as or because of, same here. GWO has become more popular. So the subject plus a verb, so the answer is as. Very good. All right, now let's move on to the last objective. Answer the following questions using the appropriate conjunction. So try to have a written answer to these questions. Don't forget to check the rules when using the conjunctions despite or in spite or because of, due to, etc. So I recommend that you pause the video, try to write an answer, then check the answers with me here. The first question, why has global temperature increased? Here, the question is about the cause or the reason. Very good. So let's share an answer. Global temperature has increased due to the increase in greenhouse gases. So due to requires a noun or a noun phrase. So the increase in greenhouse gases is a noun phrase, and we cannot use a verb here. We can also say global temperature has increased because, and here we need a subject plus a verb, because the greenhouse gases have risen. Move on now to the next question. What happened after conservationist attempts to protect the African penguins? If you do remember the text about the African penguins. All right. Despite the conservationist attempts to protect the African penguins, there have been no signs of improving. So we used concession here, despite, plus the conservationist attempt, which is a noun. Or we can say, although, and of course it requires a subject plus a verb, although conservationists have been trying to protect the African penguins, there have been no signs of improving. So I advise you to practice these words because they help you communicate more complex ideas and improve the flow and clarity of your writing. So this grammar lesson is very important to prepare you for the next writing lesson, cause and effect essays. This is all for today. Thank you so much for your attention. Don't forget to do the daily assignment on the Microsoft Teams.